Hey, it's So from So's Real Thoughts. Today we're going to be talking about Wes Anderson's Isle of Dogs. This is his second stop-motion animation film right after Fantastic Mr. Fox, which I really liked. To be honest, I wasn't sure if I was going to watch Isle of Dogs because when the poster came out and I saw like the Japanese characters on the poster, I was just like really turned off by it. But after a little bit, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a try, and I'm really glad that I did. Surprisingly, Isle of Dogs is a irresistibly charming, heartfelt, and beautiful love letter to dogs. I mean, I found some of its Japanese aesthetics problematic, but we will get to that a little bit later. In a dystopian future Japan, dogs have been quarantined on a remote island due to their canine flu. A boy named Atari ventures out to the island to find his dog Spot. Other pack of dogs, Chief, Rex, Boss, Duke, and King help him search for Spot and evade the authorities. The story was written by Wes Anderson and his usual comrades Jason Schwartzman, Roman Coppola, and Japanese actor Kunichi Nomura, which is really exciting. And considering this is a Wes Anderson film, we know that he's gonna have an insane stacked ensemble cast, and this one, of course, Bill Murray, Bryan Cranston, Edward Norton, my favorites, Greta Gerwig, Frances McDormand. Oh my god, there's so many people. And did I mention Yoko Ono is in this? Yoko motherfucking Ono, legend is in this film, so a lot of emotions, you know? Like I said before, I found the Japanese aesthetic a little bit problematic because as much as the story was so engaging and so heartfelt, and it really tugged at my heartstrings because it's a story about dogs. Who doesn't love dogs? Even as somebody who's never had a dog in their life, I can appreciate this kind of film, and I was just so touched by it. And it was honestly one of the first times where one of his stories really pulled me in and kept me at that level of engagement emotionally, maybe because it had to do with dogs and their owners. And even with that, for a story set in Japan, I wanted it to feel distinctly Japanese, have the Japanese culture play into the narrative, which honestly it didn't. It was mostly for aesthetic reasons, where you see geishas, sumo wrestlers, and sushi play in the background, and it was mostly for production design. There was actually two scenes that really stood out to me. There was one where there was an atomic bomb kind of smoke that went up in one scene, and it just reminded me too much of Hiroshima, and it felt very insensitive considering that this is happening in Japan and it happened to the Japanese people, and you're now showing that kind of symbolism on film. It just made me feel like really icky. And two, when one of the characters started speaking, translating their emotions through a haiku, and I was like, ooh, oh my god. It just came off too stereotypical, and I was like, no. While the film utilizes great use of language because you get to actually hear Japanese people speak in their native tongue, which is fantastic, but the bittersweet part is that it's never subtitled, but rather translated through a white English-speaking person, so you kind of only hear their dialogue, their perspective through a third party, which is such a shame because for a story set in Japan, you never get to hear Japanese people's voice, dialogue, and their thoughts heard directly to you as an audience. The Japanese people felt even more foreign, even in their own land, because of this aspect. It's so bittersweet because stories like this, I feel like could be set in California or Ohio or anywhere else, and it would have been told exactly the same way. He's using the setting of Japan and Japanese culture as more of an accessory rather than it being really part of the story, and that was kind of bittersweet. I really wanted to see it all tie in and how it could amplify the story, and sadly, it didn't. I also cannot believe that Wes Anderson actually put a weeaboo in this film. If you don't know what a weeaboo is, then you don't know, but ironic. With that said, Wes Anderson really outdoes himself with Isle of Dogs. People like Wes Anderson, who has such a distinct vision, style, and just aesthetic, it's hard to be very consistent because once you've perfected your style and you keep on doing it, it's almost hard to outdo yourself. And sooner or later, you may become a parody of your own style, especially like what happened with Terrence Malick with To the Wonder. He just couldn't do it anymore or have that feel. So it felt very fake. But Wes Anderson really uses his signature style of symmetrically framed shots, dry humor, quirky dialogue, and narration to really work to his benefit, to keep us engaged and not tire us out, which is really, really hard to do as a filmmaker. This is his 9th film, and for him to be consistent and true to himself, but at the same time reinvent himself in very different ways is very refreshing, and I commend you for that. This is probably one film you're gonna wanna watch over and over again. It is seriously so dang cute. I was like, oh my god. I wanted to hug this film so badly and touch the dogs. And like I said, Wes Anderson is all about the details and it is drenched in details. And you can literally see the hair follicles bouncing up and down on the dogs and see little cotton balls swaying in the ocean. And wow, the time and effort that was put into making this film is astounding, and I praise him for that, despite the little mishaps culturally, which is, why, Wes? Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know what you thought of this film, and be sure to check out my website, www.sosrealthoughts.com, and I will see you guys very, very soon. Bye.